Well, hello, I'm Mr. David, and I'm sitting here using my hands-free light to read, and you are going to have a chance to make a hands-free light as a part of the workshop today. So we'll turn on the lights and get started. So today we're going to make a hands-free light. You should have a take-home paper that would have been a part of the package that the library provided, and the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is put your name and the date on the page. Then the next thing I'll ask you to do is look at the safety words. It says safety. Hot glue can squeeze out, and some glue gun parts are hot. You'll be using a hot glue gun to assemble this project. This is what my hot glue gun looks like. And the part where the glue comes out can be very hot. So you want to be cautious and not touch that. I'm going to point to it with my ink pen and not with my finger, because I don't want to touch it. But the part where your trigger is located and where your hand is, that is usually a safe place to hold the glue gun. If you're not familiar with a glue gun, you may want to get someone else's help. But the other safety point to mention was that hot glue can squeeze out. So when you put the hot glue gun on the wood and then you squeeze things together, it may squeeze out. The part that squeezes out will be hot for a half a minute maybe, for a few seconds, but you should give it time to cool so you don't take a chance of being injured. So that's our safety information. The next thing to talk about is some terms and definitions. So on our take-home paper, we've got the words terms and definitions. The first item we talk about is a light-emitting diode, or an LED. The light-emitting diode is an electronic device that converts electricity to light. And you can see on your take-home paper both the electronic symbol and the physical appearance for a light-emitting diode. An important thing to know about light-emitting diodes is that they only produce light when they are connected in the correct direction. If you connect an LED backwards, it does not do any damage, but it also does not produce any light. That'll be important a little bit later, but for right now, I wanted you to know that that is the way we're going to be producing light with our project, is using a light-emitting diode. The light-emitting diodes that we're using are rated for 3 volts. Since we have a 3-volt battery supply system, we will not be using a current-limiting resistor. If you study electronics in other places, you might hear about current-limiting resistors for light-emitting diodes, but we don't have to learn about that today because our LED is rated for 3 volts, and we have a 3-volt power supply. So the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to open your take-home paper and look for your parts list. On the inside of your take-home paper, you can see that we've got a diagram that shows 2 LEDs in parallel, and if you're interested in series or parallel circuits, you can study that separately. For today, you won't have to learn that information, but you do need to check your parts list. So the first item in your parts list says a wood base times 2, and your wood bases should look like this. The next thing on your parts list is a battery holder, and this is the battery holder that you should be able to find in your parts list. You should have 2 clothespins, and those clothespins already have a hole drilled in one end of them and a small piece of copper foil adhesive tape, which is the next item in your parts list. There should be a craft stick with an LEDs on it and some colorful yarn. You'll also need batteries, and those should be in your parts kit as well. So if you've got all of your parts from your take-home package from the library, then we're ready to move on to our instructions. Our first step on the instructions says to attach the copper foil to the clothespin. So that's step number 1. So we're going to take the clothespin apart. Okay, so now we've got the clothespin apart, and we've selected the part that has the small hole drilled in it. The next step says to wrap the foil onto the clothespin starting near the short end and going toward the hinge location. So I'm going to take my copper foil off, and I'm going to start down here, and I'm moving toward the hinge. So I'm going to go in that little groove and push it down, and that completes step D. The next step says to locate the red wire from the battery and holder. Insert it from the right side into the hole that is located below the copper tape. So this is the wire with red insulation. So I'm going to insert it from the right side into the hole all the way up to the insulation. So I've got it all the way up to the insulation. Then wrap it over the copper tape on the flat part of the clothespin. So I'm going over top of the copper tape. Then insert the copper wire through the same hole a second time. Wrap it over the flat copper tape a second time. Pliers may help. So I'm going to pull this tight, and I'm going to use some pliers to pull it tight. And I'm going to do it a second time. And I'm going to use the pliers again. And I'm going to do it a third time because I've got plenty of wire. Twist the loose end of the wire together or push it through the hole again. The next step, which is step number 5, says put the clothespin back together. So to put the clothespin back together, I'm going to make sure that the hinge is in the correct location, and then lift up the arm and slide it back together. So that completes step 5. Step 6 says to repeat for the black wire using the other clothespin. So I'm going to take it apart and put the copper foil tape in the correct location, just like we did on the first one. Then take the insulation, the black wire insulation, and go from the right side through the hole. Pull it all the way up to the insulation, then go over the copper foil tape and go back into the same hole and pull it tight. And I'm going to keep using my pliers because it's hard to get a good grip on the wire with just my fingers. And then I'm going to wrap the wire around the insulation. And then the last step is to put the clothespin back together. So put the hinge in the correct place, and then lift the arm to get the arm back in the correct location. So we've now completed step number 6. Step 7 says to glue the red wire clothespin to the wood base with the wire side of the clothespin down and the wire toward the center. So one of the bases says red wire clothespin. So I'm going to take my red wire clothespin and put it in place, and then use hot glue to make it stay there. Remember, the hot glue gun will be hot in some places, and the squeeze out glue may be hot. So I'm going to put some glue down. And then position the clothespin in place and hold it for about 10 seconds. So that one is complete. Then step 8 says to glue the black clothespin wire clothespin to the wood base with the wire side of the clothespin up. So you can see that this one is down, and I'm going to put the other one on the other side with the wire side up. This is very important to make sure our circuit works correctly. One side up and the other side down. So once again, I'll put hot glue in the correct location. And then put the clothespin in place. And be very careful about hot glue squeeze out. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1008, 1009, 1010. Our next step is step number 9, which says glue the battery holder to the other wood base. So the battery holder goes on its location on the other wood base like that. So we will put some hot glue down on the wood and then position the battery holder in place and hold it for a few seconds so that the glue can cool and become a solid. So we have made big progress on our project now. After having given this enough time for it to cool down, we'll see that our next step is step number 10, which says to hold the two bases together so the holes line up and thread the yarn through the holes to make a neck hanger. So when I hold the two bases like this, you can see that there's an opening there, and I'm going to thread my yarn through that opening and make myself a neck hanger. To make this hang around my neck, I'm going to tie a knot on the two ends. Now our next step says to operate the hands-free light. It says insert the light bar between the clothespins to make the red LED point forward. Problem with that is I don't have any batteries yet. So I'm going to take the batteries and put them in the battery holder. The flat side of the battery goes near the spring. And then when I take my light bar and I push down on the two clothespins, I can put the light bar in place and I have a working hands-free light. If you want to change the light, you can squeeze the clothespins and put the light bar back in a different direction, and you'll have a different light. One thing to let you be aware of, if it happens that you've put it together upside down, then the light might shine in your face like this. And if the light's shining up in your face, and that's not what you want, just squeeze the clothespins and turn the light bar over and around, and then it can shine away from you, and you can use it to read, or you can use it to see where you're about to walk or where you're about to put your hand. So you can use this as a way to have light when the room is dark. Your take-home package from the library also probably included a long light bar. And the long light bar would look like this, which would give even more light, which is a good thing. Now, the reason you might want a long light bar is to have more light. The reason you might want a short light bar is because it won't get caught on things. Like when you reach past it, it won't get in your way. Also, your long light bar might have a different color light, but you'll have to find that out for yourself. I want to say thank you to Clico and to the Rapides Parish Library for allowing us to do this Makerspace hands-on workshop. Thank you.